Good evening, everyone. All right, I'll do something to create that kind of energy. By the way, I have a dash which will, yeah, so which will go to someone. I have saved it for 3 years, just for this day. That someday there will be a Flutter conference specifically in India. So, by the way, so I am Pawan. I don't know how many of you know me, but I hope so that people might know me because of Flutter. So I work in a company called Frontier as head of engineering, and today I'm going to talk about Flutter platform channels. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this topic, but before that, I just want to know how many of you are students. Okay, and how many of you know Flutter? That should be the good question. Oh, if someone does not know and he's here, then he or she, then it's a good thing. Why someone was laughing from there? Okay, all right. So we'll talk about, okay, what you will see going forward, there will be this small QR code on all my slides, which you can scan anytime to connect with me. So that's the easiest way. I'm just self-promoting myself a little bit. Can you see this is particular screen or this like from the back? Is it visible properly? Okay, cool. So how many of you know this? 2017 something happened. Okay. So 2017 is when I started doing Flutter. How many of you started in 2017? Anyone? There are some people. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, we have like good number of hands for every year almost. So it means that we have a lot of good interest in Flutter. So I started in 2017. You see a background there. That's when Flutter Alpha came, right? But I know Flutter from 2016. Why? Because I was experimenting with something called Xamarin. How many of you have heard about Xamarin? Okay, and then was not that much happy with Xamarin, so I thought about finding something. Has someone heard about Sky? Okay, people know it, so I'm not going to explain, or should I explain? So Flutter was, at some time back, used to be called Sky. And then it became Flutter, so I am from that Sky era, who was thinking that, okay, this is good, but chalega ya nahi, we don't know, right? So, but now we are here in a very good shape, so let's go further. So in 2018, I became a Google developer expert so that like I can talk about Flutter in the community, and I can kind of promote Flutter in a positive way so that people can know about the benefits of using Flutter. I have been a native Android app developer, by the way, initially in my career. How many of you know this? So I used to run a YouTube channel, MTech Viral, which eventually I had to change the name, and then it became Codepur. So good to see that people know about my channel. So that's the YouTube channel I started my Flutter journey with, and I have done a lot of videos before that also and after that also, but there are always something, there's something which in your life which always, which like people know you for, and that's Flutter for me. So, and I'm here, so I'm really happy to be here. So first of all, I want to thank the whole organization team as well as volunteers, and for you all to coming here. Well, this is my journey. So I started with native, and then I changed with the Flutter. So, okay, we cannot go back, I guess. So, oh, we can go back. So people used to tell me this same thing, that Flutter is not native. I was like, yeah, that's true. Flutter is not native, but it's not very different, right? At least you are getting a product at the end. That's much more important. So we'll talk about that first, and then we will jump to our main topic, building apps. How many of you have built at least one app in your life? And how many of you think that building apps is difficult? Not anymore? But I think it's difficult. It's still difficult. Building app is not just about creating UIs, right? Or just making a normal single page application. it involves a lot of other things, planning, gathering all the requirements, then building a final product, testing it. Throughout the time, you will go through so many phases. Now, how many of you think it's a difficult thing to do? There should be some people, इतना आसान तो नहीं हो सकती जिंदगी में चीजें. I don't believe into that idea at least. But yeah, building apps is tough. It always has been tough, but we are from Eclipse era. How many of you have seen Eclipse at least? Okay, how many of you have worked on Eclipse for Android app development? You know the pain. So then it's even more difficult. So when it comes to one platform, okay, we are okay, we'll find some solutions. But when it comes to multiple platforms, it gets even tougher, right? And do you know all these apps? They all had a journey, right? So I started my journey by making apps, right? Individual apps. How many of you know songs.pk? Everyone knows? Everyone is in favor of piracy? So I started my journey with that, and we had few friends were there who used to be Android developer, used to make apps, music player apps. Have you seen those music player apps? Right now they are not anymore relevant, but they used to be relevant at some point of time. And with that, we realized that, okay, this is a good idea. You can generate good revenue also. But you'll realize one thing, that with time, your app needs improvement, right? And your app will not always be a static app, right? I also had a friend who actually went on other side of road. He chose some different destination. He chose, rather than building apps, he focused on making to a big company. Eventually, he got fired by this guy. So that happens, right? So coming back to the topic, I have created this application. I created it for DevFest. There are a couple of events which are happening. So what I would want that you show your reaction throughout with this app, so that you do some work. I should not do all the things. So can you scan this QR code or just open this URL? You will find something. And once you do that, I'll ask in 1 minute. So I just want to be a little bit interactive with all of you, so that you don't feel bored. Are you able to open it? How many people have already opened it? Okay, you have to just log in using your Google account. That's all you have to do. Nothing else. How many of you were able to log in? Okay, few people. Can you see Flutter Conf India there? So just click on it. So what we are going to do, we are 300 people here almost, I guess, if I'm not wrong, right? 300 or somewhere around that, right? We'll try to connect with each other. Is there a better way of doing it? I don't think so. So we have created this for you so that we can connect with each other. You will share your LinkedIn profile, Twitter profile, whatever you want to do. I have removed the chat feature intentionally for obvious reasons, right? Because I'm from Delhi. We are very much famous for IQ and AQI. So we do so many things when it comes to chat apps, but I have heard that Bangalore is a good crowd. So, but still, people can still mess with those usernames, right? They will write a whole chat message in the usernames. Don't do that. And there is something where you can react with your emojis, which you would, whatever you feel, you can do that. You can also rate my session. I don't care, by the way, but still, I would love to have those feedbacks. Oh, okay. How many of you are a Flutter developer again? Okay, I have a question for you. How many of you think that you are a complete app developer? Oh, very few hands are there. Why? What happened to all of these people? Okay, what do you think that what a complete app developer looks like? Any idea anyone wants to answer? No one? There are few hands. Anyone can start it. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, you are very near. So basically, when you are making a Flutter app, I am personally like, because I think all of you have some experience with Flutter now. So building Flutter apps is good. Okay, it's all good. I mean, there's nothing you are lacking. But Flutter's, like he mentioned, life cycle. So Flutter has a different life cycle, but your different platforms have different life cycles as well, which you have to learn at some point of time. How many of you use third-party plugins and packages, especially plugins, right? Maybe it can be camera, it can be Bluetooth, right? So that's very important because it might be a very specific and relevant feature for your application, but you might not be knowing that what is happening behind the scenes. And until unless you know that, you cannot say yourself that you are a complete app developer, because that will only make you a complete app developer, right? Didn't get anything? Okay, I'll try to explain. So I believe that learning the ecosystem is very important if you really want to build a perfect mobile application, because there will be a lot of challenges throughout your journey. For example, if you are using a plugin, for example, WebView, how many of you have faced challenges using WebView, right? And how many of you could actually find solution of those challenges? I think very few people, right? Why? Because sometimes you will not get everything out of the box. Sometimes you have to invest your own time to learn few things, okay? And that's when learning the ecosystem is important. If we are talking about Android specific apps, because at the end Flutter is also giving you an APK, right? So that means you have to understand the Android ecosystem. Similarly, you have to understand the iOS ecosystem. And every platform has different guidelines about things. So how many of you have used something related to augmented reality, AR? Right? There are few hands. So I'll tell you, on Android we use something called AR Core. Okay? And on iOS there is a library called AR Kit. And both are very different. So even though if someone can give you a plugin for it, if your entire app is based on AR, either you will have to ditch Flutter or you will have to learn these both. Because without learning them, it might not be, that plugin might not be useful for your use case. Okay, so then finally we come to this particular topic, which is platform channels. How many of you have used platform channels? Okay. How many of you have not used platform channels? Okay, you are wrong. Actually, every one of you have used platform channel. You just don't know it. That's the whole point of this presentation. So it's very easy. Establish communication between native platforms, Android, iOS, web, or whatever it is, right? Very easy. Still not able to understand? I have a good example. Okay, so this diagram, okay, I don't believe in diagrams because they always confuse people. But still, you can just see that you have a Flutter app, you have different clients, iOS host, Android host, and there is some communication happening. How many of you know this? People from South, do you know this guy? Okay, so why I'm showing this? Because it's very relevant to my topic. Have you seen this? This is using platform channels, right? To talk to aliens. There was no transmitter. I didn't know that how this communication actually happened, but somehow it happened. So basically, when you have to talk to aliens, because for Flutter, Android and iOS is like aliens, right? And you have to do that. So you have to do something for that. Rohit had a funda. Who is Rohit, you know, right? This guy. This guy had a funda that there was like some set of buttons. He used to press those buttons in a random order, like in some specific order basically. It used to create some audio, and Jadu knew that audio, okay? And that spaceship also knew that audio. So basically, some sort of communication was there, right? And that's how, you know, this entire movie was made. If someone does not know this concept, like international audience, then basically it's another alien movie. In US, it's a very common thing. So basically, when it comes to platform channel, I'll just show you an example of Kotlin that we have some data types here in Dart. Similarly, you have similar data types in other languages. You just have to make a bridge sort of, so that these are always compatible and can be used like the way they are made. So that's what we will be learning. It's gonna be very easy. So Flutter uses something called method channel for this communication, and now it's going to be serious. So you have to focus. So how you create it? I'll give a very simple example. You have to just say method channel, and you will give your channel name. That's all you have to do on the Dart side of things. After that, what you will do? Okay, what's happening here? My channel is the name of the channel, and you have to avoid the same names so that you don't use them further. Okay, with the time, as my slides will go, things will get little bit more complicated. So be here and trust me that I'll try to teach you everything. Then what you do? You invoke a method using channel.invoke method, and then you specify a data type, string, that I want something as a string. And then you specify the method name, which is hello in this case. All sorted? Easy, right? You might have used it already. But yeah, we will come to a point where you will say that you haven't used something. Then hello is the name of the action basically you want to call, and this example returns string type data. That's very obvious, right? You didn't get anything yet? Okay, we'll come to that again. Android side, what will happen? You will basically just specify what is your channel name. Then there is something called configure Flutter engine, which you will get by default. If you are not getting, you can just override this method. And then inside that, you can have some callbacks of the method channels. And using these, you can specify for what action you want to do something, right? So if you are using, how many of you are actually used plugins and looked into it, that how the plugins are working? Okay, few people are here and some people don't know. So this is how it works also. But when you publish a plugin, when you write a plugin, you just change the way of doing it in a little bit way, which can be, you can say, much more organized also, much more readable. So right now we are just taking a simple example. Then what you do, you say, my method name is hello. If that's the case, then I will call a method called get hello data, and I'll get some data and I'll just pass it as a result. If that does not work, I can just say not implemented, or I can also throw some errors. That's how it works on the Android side of things. And get hello data is nothing, but it is just saying hello from Android. That's it. That's all you have to do to make a simple, you can say, communication between Flutter and Android. This was the problem with Xamarin, which because you might not have used, so you might be knowing. This communication was very difficult because when it comes to Xamarin, you have this only option to write everything in C#. How many of you have used C# at some point of time in your life, in college somewhere? So C# is a really good language. The thing is, when it comes to Android, Android understands Kotlin and Java, for example. So when it comes to C#, someone has to migrate everything from that to C#. So again, you will be reliable on Android and iOS side also, and then you are reliable on the Xamarin Form side also. And that is the problem which Flutter was solving, that made me interested in Flutter from the initial days. So, and this is very easy solution, right? Like nothing has changed on the Kotlin side of things. It's just that there are some methods which you have created to create that sort of communication. So that's the beauty of Flutter. And so basically what you can do on Android side, you can add as many as libraries as you want, and you should be good. If something is not available for Flutter, you can use it with Android. All right, iOS side, what happens? Again, it looks like terrible, but it's not actually. You will just specify channel name. Same thing, you have a method handler. You will just get some callbacks here. And then, yeah, that's it. You don't have to do much. Then similarly, you will say call.method hello. How many of you think that only one language I can learn? I cannot learn more than that. All of you can learn more than that? Why the need of the talk? Okay. Oh, there are a couple of people back there. So I think if you'll see, I personally suggest to use Kotlin over Java. and Swift over Objective-C, because first of all, they are futuristic, and second, the syntax of Android, like Kotlin, Java, Dart, Swift is almost similar. Objective-C is a different league. So I don't personally use Objective-C. So this is what you have to do. Again, the same thing. It will return hello from iOS. I am running out of time. I don't know how slow I am. But okay, let's move further. Let's talk about Windows. How many of you have made any Windows app so far? Okay. So Windows, we will take some example because otherwise it will be waste. So on Windows, what we do? We again have the same handler. We specify, like we are using here C++, by the way, if you don't know. So C++, we will just, see, I hate C++ because of pointers. And that's the only reason I gave up with C++, because I understood pointer, but I still don't understand why I have to do it, right? So that's why I am not a fan of C++, but nothing against C++. C++ is a very good language. It's one of the most, you would say that, like you will always get a job if you don't know anything but C++, because a high demand language is if you really know C++. We are not promoting here anyway. So the same thing you have to do, and then you will create a method hello, then again you will call a method get hello data, and it will return some result. And this is how it looks like, right? So this is done. So basically what we have done, we are invoking specific methods. That's one thing. You will receive the result, and then you will show that result in the UI. That's the whole concept of platform channels. But that's just one way, and I have almost wasted my entire time with this thing, but now let's go a little bit faster, right? Good. So, okay, we have to go faster. So basically there is main activity which we were using, and there is one Flutter view, right? And your Flutter app is drawn in it. Why I'm showing this? Because next thing is very much relevant. So you can, or what you can do with this main activity, you will treat it as a normal Android app, and you can change your activities, right? I don't know how many of you have used it, but it's a very good thing to do. I'll tell you what not to do also. Now, what if I have to go from a different direction, from Android iOS to Flutter, rather than Flutter to Android iOS? Again, a challenge. So on Android, for example, you want to display using activity or view controller. So in activity, by activity I mean Android part, by view controller I mean iOS part, right? So what you do, same concept. Let's say for example we want to collect some text information using an edit text. So what you'll do, you will again have this call method text, that I want text information. We will use intents. How many of you know intents? Cool. My entire app click to chat was based on this intent, which has generated a lot of revenue, by the way, with this few lines of code. So you will use intents, and then start activity for result. Basically there will be this intent where you put some data, you get that data from edit text, and you will pass it as a result. It will match with the request code. If that's the case, it will get that data. Otherwise it will say some error occurred. Okay. iOS side, same thing. Flutter view controller is there. Okay, and there is one root view controller which I'll show you how it works, and Flutter view, which Flutter app is drawn on. And yeah, you can use Flutter view controller to change activities there also. Like for example, in Dart you use navigator.push, right? Something like that, right? Here you have to deal with different activities or fragments or whatever you want to call it. And then same concept, you will have this view controller, then you will pass some data, you will text some data from edit text, and then you will return it as a result. Okay, we are really running out of time. Replace root with UI navigation controller. If you want to use your own Flutter view controller, what you will do, you will take the root view controller and you will just assign it to different controller. That's it you have to do. You will have to override some functions though, which I'm not going to show. So platform screen, by platform screen I mean Android screen or iOS screen. Okay, so you can use it for text input. Image picker you might have used, right? That uses this. And whatever screen on the platform side. Something terrible happened again. Okay. Oh, we are back. So this is less problematic when you have to go Flutter screen to Flutter screen. and then you go to platform screen to platform screen. You should do it, but you should never do it this, which is you are jumping from Flutter screen to platform screen, then coming back to Flutter screen, then going to platform screen. Why I'm saying this? Because this can create some performance issues, and your app will, like, you might be wondering why I would do that, but when you will build a good product, you probably need this at some point of time, right? Okay, so now there is one more use case, how to display platform UI inside Flutter, right? And I'll give you the examples of these. So yeah, this can be done. There are two ways of doing it. One is texture, second is platform view. How many of you know these? Texture and platform view. I'll give you an example, then you will say you will know this. Okay, so texture example is this. How many of you have used camera? That's an example of texture and video player. How they works? So basically in Dart we call it texture only because that's the API which we use. In Android we use three things: surface text, texture entry, and there is another API which is surface texture, which comes from the graphics API, and the surface itself. And iOS we use Flutter texture. Okay. Obviously I have limited time, so I cannot explain how these things work, but if you want, I can definitely do it outside. And then platforms view, you might have used web view, right? That's how it works. Google Maps, that's how it works. And then AdMob you might have used. So AdMob has changed a little bit in last few couple of years. They started doing things on the Flutter side, which I'll come back in some time. So this is how platform view look like. On Dart we use Android view and UIKit view. On Android side we call it platform view, and on iOS we call it Flutter platform view. Got it? Is it easy enough or tough? How many of you think it's very tough? Oh, okay. There should be few people who calls it very tough, so that I can present it next time also. All right, but this is not type safe. So what's the whole point of this entire thing when it's not even type safe? Because it will be very difficult. So we have a solution for that. So we can use something called Pigeon. How many of you have used this? Pigeon, whatever you want to call it. So this is a very good way of using platform channels. I know this is a very serious topic, but I just want you to understand it rather than thinking that, oh, this is difficult. So this makes your app, this handling of platform channels type safe. Basically, you don't have to specify your type. So you will basically create a host API where you will have a class, basically data class sort of, and then you will create this API that what you want it to do. For example, in the book API, I want to perform some search. Then you will run some commands which will generate some code. Flutter side, for example, we are writing a test where we are saying that, okay, I want this API to search Aaron in the keyword, and then the title should match with that. And that's the only test we have written. On iOS side, what we will do? We will get this book API, which we can implement. Okay, we can extend this book API basically, and it will be, you will all get it using the generated code, and then you just have to call the dot setup first, and then you can use the API directly. Similar on the Android side, you can see we have a class myAPI which we have created, which extends, which implements the book API. It gives that search method, it overrides that search method, and you do the whatever you want to do. So that makes your application type safe, which means you don't have to again. So if you have dealt with platform channels, you know that hot restart and hot reload does not help you, right? How many of you know that, right? So if you will face type safe issues, so every time you will have to restart the application again, and then the entire building stuff will happen. Mix up and be creative. So it's not always about that you will always rely on platform channels for everything, right? Because there will be some use cases where you would want to do something different, where you would want to mix things. I'll give you an example. How many of you know this device? It's a crypto specific thing, but I'm just wondering. It's a ledger device, okay? And it's nothing but it's a hardware wallet, okay? So someone can, like Web3 is in talk, right? Like a lot of people are doing products with React Native and Flutter, okay, in the upcoming time. So someone can just say that, okay, this is the device, and you have to send data from this to your application, right? How you will do it? right? Try finding plugin for Ledger Nano X, for example. Do you think you will find it? Most of the time, no, right? So at that place, you have to think what you can do. So you have to think about these two things. One is Bluetooth, which you need for connectivity, right? And second is data transmission. That's the only thing you require. So either I can do one thing, I'm out of time, but I'll take 5 more minutes. So either we can find a particular plugin for it, or we can make our own. So what we can do, we can use a Bluetooth plugin for sure, because this is a very common use case, right? A Bluetooth plugin might be there somewhere. So we can use that. For data transmission, we have to think a little bit. So for that, we can write our own library. And how it will help? It will work on every platform if you write it on Dart. And then you also get the benefit of hot reload and hot restart. So similar stuff, I'm showing this to you because I written a library for it. And it was a good journey. So it is a little bit low level code, but what the point I want to make is that this is a better way of doing it, rather than searching for that library for your all the time and then saying no at the end, right? That I could not find anything. So that should not be your excuse. So what we are trying to learn from this is that we have to learn platform channel at some point of time, so that we can become a better developer and we can cover these kind of use cases. If you really want a good job, you can have n sort of problem statements, I would say. And then you have to learn these things so that you can say to yourself that, you know, I can work on anything. Whatever you throw at me, I will build a product out of it, right? For example, I can see Ayush sitting over here. How many of you know Front Row, right? So Front Row is an app, right? So he might tell you that how many challenges were there while building Front Row. But if you'll see it from outside, you'll like, it's a very simple app, right? It has nothing to do, like it has a video player, everything. But that's not how it works in real life, right? And I think within this time frame, he might have learned so many things, that how things work actually behind the scenes. So that's the feeling. Okay, I have something good now. Okay, swag time. So it will be very quick. I'll give away this dash within this 1 minute. You will have to just answer this one thing. And whoever will be close, I'll give it to him, the first person. And this is no question. 17 is very close. Anyone wants to get near to it? Huh?
July 17.
June? That's going very tough. Okay, one by one. You have to raise your hand. Okay, that guy on the back. हाँ, आप ही हो. November? Okay. Who else? 5 people. Okay, June. Third person. हाँ, that one. April to 2017. हाँ? October. ठीक है, 5 लोग हो गए. ठीक है, I'll give it to the November one, that guy. Because, see the date. So I showed you in the first picture itself. But you are not focused. I'm sorry. So you can take it from here. Yeah, please come. Yeah, I think we are done.
What an insightful session it was.
If you want to connect with me, again scan this QR code. Self-promotion again. And then you have the application, right?
Okay, if anyone have any question for Pawan, feel free to ask him.
Please, please. How much time we have? 2 minutes?
We can take 2 minutes.
Okay. 2 minutes, so 1-2 question ही आ सकते हैं. Yeah, you can ask. Mike.
Hi. So I was trying to implement haptic feedback using service.dart. So when I look into the internal code, I found the same method channel is getting invoked whenever I trigger the haptics.
Yeah.
So Flutter provides only 3 types of haptic: heavy, light, and medium. If I want to customize it based on my requirement, Is there any way or any technique which I can use to customize the haptics?
You can just clone that repo and
Yeah,
you can add your code. That's one way. Second, I would suggest you should rather contribute to it if your feature is actually gonna make sense for most of the people, right? So you can contribute to directly that Flutter like system library itself rather than doing it yourself. Third, I don't know.
Yeah, I tried to change the code, but it was not getting triggered when I implement anything extra other than the given value.
Stack Overflow for you.
Tried that also.
I mean, I really don't know that what you might be doing. So I think it should not be that complex. But again, it all comes to this platform channel, right? If you understand this, how things work, if you know how Android lifecycle works, if you know how Android ecosystem works, then these things will be very easier for you to target, right? And so a lot of people ask me what's next. I have learned Flutter, so this is next. You should learn Android. You should learn iOS, how those things work. And these platforms are very much close to each other, especially after the declarative wave, right? So you don't have to spend a lot of time, but obviously reading these APIs will take some time. So I still don't know if I answered your question, but I think you can take a look again and you will definitely find a solution. We can take one more question in someone from this side. Anyone? Yeah.
Hello. Yes, you said you prefer use Swift over Objective-C, right?
Yeah.
But most of Flutter library is developed in Objective-C. Is there any reason?
That's a good question. I have to ask someone. But I think the major reason was that initially Objective-C was very much supported initially in the framework side of things. Then they also migrated to Swift. And another reason can be that a lot of people might be there who prefer Objective-C for doing things, right? Not everyone is still, like Objective-C is still relevant when it comes to iOS development. It's just that I don't prefer it does not mean that people don't prefer it. But yeah, I never liked Objective-C personally. But I think Swift is better in that way. But I think today, as of now, I think most of the libraries has been shifted from Objective-C to Swift.
No, I use I change most of Flutter library. One of WebView. I implemented full screen capture, full screenshot in WebView.
There can be another reason. I'll tell you. Sometimes when you go deep inside a framework or anything, you try to optimize things, okay, and then you go to the basics of things. So basically, when it comes to Swift also, the underlying things are done in Objective-C only. If you go back to the old libraries, so for example, if you are using Kotlin, somewhere it is using Java only, right? So that might be one scenario why they might be using it. Or you will see a lot of C++ also inside, lot of libraries. So the reason is performance and optimization most of the time. But I think I'll take a look at the library which you are saying, why they are using Objective-C.
I have edited many libraries.
Okay, awesome. So I think you can take the questions later. We have to get another speaker here. So thank you so much again, guys, for coming. And we will meet outside for sure. So thanks for having me.